Hello, and welcome to the Lacrosse Show. I'm Connor Wilson, and with me, as always, is Mr. Mark Powers. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing excellent. New locale for me, but same old thing, man. Looking to get into it.
Excellent. Good to hear. We've got an exciting list of topics. We're also going to be joined by the #1 draft pick from the recent NLL draft, Logan Shuss. Very exciting. We're going to speak with him later on in the show. Pumped to get to that. We've got a lot of stuff to discuss in the meantime right here on the Lacrosse Network. You ready to get into it?
Very much, man. I can't wait.
All right, let's do this. So the first topic up, we've got young commits, right? We got a freshman committing to UNC. Big news, I guess. To me, it's kind of an overblown thing a little bit. The commit is a non-binding process. I know I've made a steam about it in the past. I've kind of had my problems with it. I do think it can be a bad choice and lead to some bad decisions, possibly. These kids are really young. But in the end, it's non-binding. Are we making too big of a stink out of early recruiting?
No. No, man. I don't think we're making too much of a stink about it. But at the same time, I got to say I'm jealous of these guys. I was sweating it out to the very end, trying to get myself into a situation where I could play at school. And I certainly wish that I could have wrapped it up, in ninth grade. I mean, who doesn't want that? And it's not like we're talking about guys that are committing to lesser tier programs. We're talking about kids that are committing to amazing institutions of higher learning and generally amazing lacrosse teams. So, my perspective on this is, look, if the coach and the university want to take a chance, then great. But I think it's going to be bad, if we start to see some situations where coaches, pull out of things later on, or, if players maybe lax up and don't play as hard as they should to earn the commitment. Those are my biggest concerns.
And I think that those are certainly valid concerns. At the end of the day, to me, what it really comes down to is if you got good parents and you got good coaches, you got a good club program, they're probably going to help put you in the right place and help you find the right place. So, and that's what it usually comes down to. I think for now, maybe we'll leave early recruiting at that, move on to a little LXM recap. We had another tight game. Actually, surprisingly, 20-19, Maverick United coming out on top over Team STX out in Orem, Utah, which actually the players say that they love playing out there. Not a huge surprise. Kind of cool to see. We had 5 BYU guys step in and play in that game. That's got to be kind of neat. Could one of those guys emerge maybe and earn a role?
Yeah, I certainly think it's feasible. I think we both agree that obviously the amount of guys and the fact that they're from BYU relates to the fact that the game was in Utah. I don't think that they'd be picked up if it was in Orange County probably. But yeah, I think that's definitely a cool wrinkle. Big news for me is that Maverick won. That's a little bit of a change. STX have been dominating a little bit. But they rejiggered the team somewhat. Eric Crum continues to do his thing on the crease. Total wizard there. I like seeing Shamel Bratton break out, score some goals. But yeah, the BYU guys, I hope they stay around.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see. You have a guy like Connor Martin, who was a standout player in the MCLA, but he's playing in the MLL or has played in the MLL. He's seen success. I think he's a guy who has skill. I'd like to see another MCLA guy come out and really help make another name for the league. Do you think that we're going to see another guy like that in the MLL or the LXM anytime soon?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Connor Martin is one of 2 MCLA players at minimum that I know of. I remember Michigan had a face-off guy a couple years ago that got drafted too. So it's only a matter of time. It's the same thing with the recruiting process that we were just talking about. It's have game, will travel, right? So I don't think that professional leagues are going to discriminate where they get guys from. If you're a great player and they find you, that's it. There's no doubt about it. They have a monetary incentive to put the best product on the field.
Fair enough. All right, moving on. This is kind of a weird story. Media perception here is certainly strange. I think to even make it a lacrosse story, but the Auburn Grand Theft Auto story. Talk about a bizarre piece of news in general. But is that even a lacrosse story?
No, I don't think that it's necessarily a lacrosse story. I think that the fact that angle came out gave reason for places like Deadspin to cover it. That's where I found out about it. So. I just think that that's a throw-in line. Same thing with the situation with the kid at Marquette. They just happen to play lacrosse. I don't think that it's necessarily intrinsic to the sport, but it sucks. I mean, it's more bad publicity, and there's no other way to cut it. You know, both the behavior's got to get better, and at the same time, hopefully we can defeat some of these leftover stereotypes from Duke.
Yeah, I mean, I think that really it's a larger media issue, and they're looking to frame, any story in a context that people can easily understand. And if you need to throw the descriptor of lacrosse player onto somebody, or frat brother, or white person, or black person, or whatever it is, it helps sell a story, I think. So, I was a little surprised, to be honest, to see it in the Time headline. That was the one place, like Bro Bible, Deadspin, not a total shocker. The Time headline, I was like, wow. To go beyond just a Grand Theft Auto story, but to make it a lacrosse story. I thought that was interesting.
No, agreed. And, for me, it's unfortunate, but you didn't hear these type of stories before Duke. And I really don't want to riff about that team. Obviously, they were all exonerated, but, we saw how quickly the media, and you're right, I think it's just a media issue where they're just looking to package it and help people tap into the emotions that they would have, associated with lacrosse players or people of privilege.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know that that's unique to our sport, or that we should feel especially victimized about it. So if we do, perhaps the issue is to attack the media on a little bit larger scale. Who knows? Moving on to a slightly more positive story in the lacrosse community, the medicine game. You watched it, obviously.
Loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I watched it as well. I really enjoyed it. To me, something that stood out is the fact that two guys, one of them who for much of the filming was in L.A., did this. I mean, with very limited funding, and they did get some help, I believe, from Vision Maker Media. So, you don't want to say that they didn't get any help, but, it really was the pet project of two guys and, to a certain extent, the Thompson family. I thought it was kind of amazing that we got that much. Was there anything that you wanted to see more of?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see once they turn the corner, and personally, I'd love to see so much more of Jerome's story, because he's a kid that got publicity along with Jeremy, and they were expected to go to Syracuse. And then when that didn't happen for Jerome, obviously you were left wondering. And it was interesting to see the behind the scenes and to find out that they had that fight before the state championships. I mean, that was news to me. That's crazy, Yeah. So it certainly gave me some color, and I just felt like at every chance, man, this kid just got such a raw break. And when they were showing the high school footage, even though he was a heavy-set guy and I didn't expect him to be the better of the two, apparently he was. And, that was something that was interesting for me, was to think about the what-if about his career.
Well, if you watch some of the Iroquois versus Syracuse or Israel highlights, or you can actually watch the full games, they're out there online as well, he's out there playing. I believe he's wearing number 22. And, I mean, he's a sniper. He can play. So I wouldn't count him as being out of the game. I think we may start to actually hear more from Jerome Thompson. I certainly hope we do.
Yeah, I mean, pressure's got to be on him, especially with what his younger brothers and his cousin are doing. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I can't think of another family other than the Stanwicks, to tell you the truth. I mean, what a polar opposite. But, that's the only other group that I could think of doing it within such a tight-knit group. And that many. I mean, there's 5 Thompsons, so it's really impressive.
Yeah. Well, let's move on now to a topic that's near and dear to your heart, the NLL draft, and then we'll bring on Logan. But I mean, what are your initial thoughts here? Because a lot of stuff happened. There was a ton of action going down.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, so first and foremost, I almost think that the teams that I looked at as winning the draft kind of did so almost beforehand and through some of the trades that happened. But you cannot, when we're talking about the 2013 NLL draft, you got to talk about the Minnesota Swarm and the 4 picks they had in the first round. Cam Flint probably being the most notable to American viewers. Him and Jeremy Noble, Logan Shuss, are obviously NCAA stars that have really been able to show that the transition is so easy now to make it.
Yeah, it's really amazing, and that's something I definitely want to talk to Logan about a little bit down the road. Is just, you see so many guys now who are going the college route. Why they're doing it? Is that helpful? I mean, as junior A, lacrosse taking a step back, or guys just men when they enter, as opposed to 18, 19-year-olds. Very curious to hear what he has to say. I mean, let's talk about Edmonton a little bit. Maybe Buffalo too. Those are 2 other teams that that really seem to do a lot. I mean, what do you think about their prospects?
Yeah, it's great that you brought them up because I actually love both of those teams as far as what they did during the draft. Edmonton really needed some scoring punch. They strong defensive team with Kyle Rubish, the Defender of the Year. They also picked up, I think it's Nilik or Billick in a draft day trade in which they swung the fourth pick. They swung the fourth pick to Minnesota, switched picks with them, and were still able to get Robert Church, an amazing scorer out of Drexel. So I think Edmonton really served themselves well by getting some scoring punch. Buffalo Bandits, same thing. I thought that they were great winners too, and they're a situation where it's more about the trades and the moves that they made, picking up Ryan Benesh and Andrew Watt before the draft. And then, huge. I mean, tremendous. We talked about it on draft night, the fact that Benesh is a lefty, and that's something, that they could really have a great compliment there. John Tavares, obviously a legend, but an aging one. And then, they only complement that by getting the hometown boy, Joe Resetaris, on draft night in a steal, a great play. I think that's going to pay major dividends for them. And we were talking about it with Dane. I mean, Dane, look at that, a kid who had a tremendous breakout first year and a guy that I'm looking at almost to have an all-pro season is worried about making the team at this point. I know. I think that speaks volumes. About what Buffalo's doing. Yeah.
So let's talk about that. I mean, we got a guy coming on now, in Logan Shuss. Logan, thank you for coming on the show. I'm sorry that Mark said Cam Flint was more notable than you are to our American viewers. I'm just going to go out and apologize for him right away.
Sorry about that.
So we definitely want to know, what's it like being the #1 draft pick? Congratulations on that, by the way. Pretty fantastic. Maybe muted. Looks like we may have Logan on mute somehow. It's a tricky business here. Why don't you try again?
Let's talk a little bit about his transition. For me, Logan's an interesting story coming from a program at Ohio State that's really rising to prominence as a team, making the playoffs last year. And they have another Canuck on their squad, Jesse King, who made some noise over the summer, and I think that they paired really well playing together this year. In fact, I remember this nasty. I want to ask Logan if you
here we go. We got him back.
Excellent.
Logan, how you doing? Good to have you on.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Doing well. So how's it feel? #1 draft pick. I mean, you're going to Minnesota. What are your initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great honor to be taken #1, and looking forward to joining the Swarm. I know they got a great bunch of young guys on their team, and they're really focused on bringing in a strong core of guys to this rookie draft. So I'm just excited to get there and start with the tryouts and just earn my spot.
Does it give you any kind of confidence to know that you're coming in with a really large group of new players to the organization? You're not kind of trying to break into a strongly existing unit.
Yeah, it definitely is comforting knowing that there's going to be quite a few young guys coming in and trying to earn spots. One of my good friends actually got drafted in the later rounds, Dominique Alexander from Ohio State. So I know we've been talking, and I'm trying to teach him the box game a little bit more. He's never played, so he's gonna go up there and give it his all. But we've been working out together and working on some stuff, so I think he's got a good shot.
That's awesome. Very cool to see a new guy picking up the box game. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, no question. Hey, Logan, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks.
Quick question for you about kind of the logistics. Obviously, the Minnesota Swarm are a little farther away from where you're from, out west in British Columbia. Are you going to move to Minnesota during the season, do you think? I know that they are known for having a house or finding accommodations for players. Is that something you're thinking about?
Yeah, actually, well, right now I'm in Columbus still. I'm finishing up my student teaching here for Ohio State, so I'll be here the rest of the year. I'm just going to have to fly in and out from Columbus to Minnesota in the other games. So that's my first year plans. From there on, I'm going to be looking for a job right away out of college here. So I'm looking to move back to Vancouver, looking to start my career there and get my life rolling back home. If I can't find a job there, I'm going to be more than willing to maybe head back to Minnesota and live there for the year. But if I can find a job, I just want to get into it right away.
Of course, of course. Now, like we mentioned, you're from British Columbia, and in doing my research and looking into your background, one of the big things that was mentioned was that you didn't really play a whole lot of Junior A lacrosse, yet you found yourself as a number one pick. How do you think that happened? Because a lot of times we're looking at kids that, are well-known commodities from Junior A. Obviously, you had a huge career at Ohio State, but, talk about your road to being the number one pick.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in my community, Ladner, it's a pretty big lacrosse community. I mean, my dad started me out sooner than I was born and basically had a stick in my hand, and he actually bumped me up when I was 3 years old to play with my brother's 5-year-old team, so I've been playing lacrosse for a long time now. I didn't get to play very many junior games just because I was here at Ohio State for 3 out of my junior years, so I would get back late throughout the year. I'd only get in about 9 regular season games. And previous to that, I actually had an injury when I was a bit younger, and I'd only played probably 4 or 5 junior games in that time frame. So, yeah, I definitely didn't play too many junior games, but I think the experience I've had here at Ohio State has been incredible and has really prepared me for the next level.
Yeah, I'm
we
sure.
were talking about that earlier, right, Mark? I mean, we saw a ton of guys in the first 2 rounds who all, Canadian, but had played at an American university. Is there a benefit there? I mean, we're insanely curious to know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a benefit. Guys who choose to forego trying to go down to the States and down south to earn a scholarship to play Division 1, 2, or 3 lacrosse, and they go right into the NLL. I mean, definitely the skill level is there if they're coming out of Canadian box lacrosse, but just the maturity and the athleticism that they gain coming down to the States, I think you can't beat that. And when players are now entering the NLL 22, 23 years old with 4 solid years of lacrosse under their belts, I think they're at quite an advantage to make a team right away rather than just going in right after junior ball.
Yeah, agreed. Now, it's interesting, the big topic in the States these days is infusing more box lacrosse into our youth lacrosse in order to help players kind of develop those uniquely Canadian finishing skills and learn your game sense. What do you think you learned from coming to play field here in the States? What are some new elements that you picked up or aspects of your game that you really honed going to Ohio State?
Yeah, I think a big thing that we always talk about here at Ohio State is just valuing the ball. In box lacrosse you have the 30-second clock, so a lot of wild shots are taken. Turnovers aren't as costly as it is in the field game. So I think really valuing the ball and taking care of the ball during offensive sets and, just the pure athleticism coming down to the States and just being an all-around player. Even though you're an offensive player, you still have to ride the ball back. You still have to fight for ground balls, and there's a lot more opportunities for that in the field game. So I think gaining that athleticism in the field game for me and just the overall speed of my game really increased, and decision-making has been a big thing for me.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's funny, in watching you, one of the things that I really noticed as you've developed over the years at Ohio State is that you went from being almost strictly a finisher when you came in to by the end, the footage that I saw watching you this year, you were doing tons of dodging. I mean, and you're one of the few guys in 2013 NCAA lacrosse that can still score on a power sweep. I mean, when's the last time we really seen that happen? So talk about that. I mean, what was it like having your role evolve? Obviously, as you get older, you take on more leadership. Talk about what you and Dominique had to do, because your team was killing it this year. I mean, made the playoffs.
Yeah.
I looked at you guys as the most dangerous squad coming in. I mean, you had tough break matchup-wise, but man, if the balls had broken differently, it could have been something to talk about for sure.
Yeah, I just definitely think it was a lot of game plan that went into myself becoming more of a Dodger. As I grew up in the field game here at college, a lot of teams started to play me differently, and I wasn't able to just do my basic finishing on the crease or just catching, doing my thing. So with that, you have to adapt to things just like everything in life. And Coach Myers and the coaching staff did a great job of finding ways to get me the ball and to get me those matchups. And we'd always do some like pick plays if you see a lot of our film, I think that was really important in our role coming down the line to winning that ECAC championship and taking it to the NCAA's. But yeah, like the power sweep, I just kind of get my feet moving, and I'm a pretty big guy, so teams really can't stop that. And once I have my hands free, I'll just let the shot go and hope for the best.
Yeah, you're still doing it for the machine too. I love it. And you shoot overhand. That's one thing I really love watching your game. Always shooting overhand.
Yeah, my dad always taught me that, and even when I still go back home or call him after my any of my games, and he watches every single one of them with my entire family at my house. He's the first one to criticize me about taking a bad shot or not shooting it overhand, or he's just still my biggest critic. And although he loves watching me play, and he definitely loves the stuff that I do, he's always there just to help me improve my game.
Yeah, the old man keeping stats.
He knows what he's talking about. He's got his jersey retired up in my local arena back home too, so he's definitely a player.
That's great.
That's a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
How can a kid who maybe doesn't grow up, with a direct family member or somebody on their street or a neighbor like that, who really knows the game and is willing to share it, how can a kid like that get to where you're at?
It's just I grew up a lot of my time was spent inside the arenas and on the fields or watching YouTube clips. I think it's just as much time as you put into it, the better you'll be, and I think that goes for everything in life. But just going to games, observing players, like meeting new players, and just creating some friends who play the game. Because a lot of times when I was growing up, it was always my best friends who were playing lacrosse, and my new friends play lacrosse too. So that's how you can meet some new kids and really just get out there and have fun with it.
Yeah, nothing like a little backyard competition to help you hone your skill set. Right?
Me and the boys back home still get into the mini lacrosse in the backyards, but kind of gets a little rough. It's almost as intense as a real game.
See, if these guys are doing it, kids, you got to be doing it too. Well, Logan, thank you very much for taking some time out, joining us, telling us a little bit about the upcoming year and how you got to where you are. We wish you the best of luck next year with Minnesota.
Right on. Thanks, guys.
And the machine. Keep up the good work, man.
Oh yeah, that's a foregone conclusion, right? We got good luck already for that one.
Appreciate it.
No problem. So, thank you guys very much for watching the Lacrosse Show. We'll be back next week with lots more. Until then, hit the wall.